the treasurer of the Bronxville Garden Co-op Apartments in Yonkers for roughly 15 years. I just actually rolled off the board, but am still transitioning to help the newer members kind of get up to speed on the financial issues and situation that we have. Actually, a neighbor approached me because she knew that I had some accounting background, and she said, we could really use you on the board, and it's only one meeting a month. And I say if we had a live audience, they would probably roar in laughter at that, because it was a lot more work than that. But it was okay because I came to realize that this is one of my biggest investments. For some people, it's their only investment. And it was something that I think, although I didn't have time to do, that I needed to make time to do it because it was that important. When you have that kind of investment and your whole livelihood depends on where you live, I think you really have to make the time. So that's when I decided to go ahead and join. And when I did join, I got very deep into the finances. The existing treasurer left just as I was coming on. So I really had to start from square one, and I found out that there needed to be more eyes on the financials, and it kind of took off from there. What I would say is trust but verify. Management companies or managing agents have probably between 7 and 9 properties each that they work on, and it's a thankless job, just like the board is a thankless job, but it's a tough job. And but quite honestly, we only care about our co-op. I'm being perfectly honest. It's a tough job for them, but we only care about our co-op. So if it means getting involved and working with them, then that's what we need to do. There's no perfect board. There's no perfect management company or agent or shareholder, so we all make mistakes, and if you can develop a relationship where there's less finger pointing and more working together to solve the problems, then I think it really can build your co-op up and keep your finances intact. I would also suggest to reach out for any resources that you can to increase your income. Certiaries, we did very well on filing for a certiorari several years ago. That did go right into our capital reserves, which is really important. We took the opportunity to refinance when it was a good time to do that. Flip tax is another way to get some income, and of course to always keep your eye on your expenses and lower them whenever possible. And that could be simple things like cutting back on overtime for staff, to an extreme of maybe limiting the staff, not rehiring if somebody leaves, and see how that goes for a while. These aren't popular decisions, but sometimes they're necessary because you have, in our case, 100 families that we can't satisfy them all. Anywhere from trying to please everybody with the heat, to trying to please everybody with the amount of increases we give. So it's a really tough balance, and it's really very beneficial if you can get more income that's not coming in off the backs of the shareholders, like certiaries and things like that, because otherwise you have a real mix of income statuses. Let's say we have people with living on fixed incomes. We have people that we have young families, and we have people that just want to come and go and don't want to know anything about what goes on. And we have other people that are really, really concerned with, I'm retiring Friday, and I'm thinking, okay, so what happens? What happens in the next couple of years if we get some big assessment? So although I'm transitioning off, I have a feeling I may just kind of wander back onto the board because I'm going to be very concerned with what happens. And if you don't have people that really care that are on the board, and we've been lucky to have that for a long time, but if you don't have people that care, that step up to the plate, golly knows what can happen to your property. When a board board hits a brick wall where at times it's overwhelming. Right now we have several projects, big projects going on at the same time. 2 roofs, 2 ramps, fire escape, scraping and painting, all happening at about the same time. Most boards would be totally clueless about how you handle that kind of thing. It's just pretty rare that you can have a whole board of professional people that will be able to walk you through this. And it's fine to say, well, we'll hire an architect and we have our contractor, and if you pay them, everything will be fine. And like I said before, there's no perfect contractor either. So there has to be eyes on. The days of thinking that we'll just take care of this all by ourselves, just like when you're a new mom, you always try to be a super mom. You can't be a super board. You have to get to a point where you feel free to reach out. And we do reach out to our shareholders. We're lucky enough to have an ex-president from our board who's an architect. He came back on the board as a liaison, kind of as a consultant, to help us with this process of going through all the blueprints, all the permits, just watching that everything is being done right, and reading, dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's in the contracts and things like that, AIA agreements, things that we look at and just we're stymied by it all. And we've had other issues where we've had plumbing problems, and we had a retired plumber that we just called him in for some advice, and could you take a look? Could you even evaluate our new super and see if he really, how well you think he's doing this job, when he fixes something. A lot of people are more apt to volunteer for that short term, that one project, that one job, rather than it's pretty scary to say, would you like a 1, 2, or 4 year commitment? But if you can kind of ease them into it that way, a lot of them are very happy to do that and to help. So, that's how we kind of try to solve the problems that are overwhelming to us, is we're not afraid to reach out. And I think boards need to tap into those resources that are right at their fingertips. I at one time actually wanted to just have a little sign-up sheet and have everybody just say, what's your background? Really, web designer? Gee, we don't have that. We have a website that we have to pay somebody to keep up, and it's really not the way we want it to be. We need a lot more help with that. Gee, could you do that? Sit on in a meeting when we have a plumbing issue. So we are more and more doing that, I think, because it just comes a time where you have to say, you put all your heads together, this is more than we can manage. And of course, if most boards are like ours, we are supposed to have a board of 7, and we run a lot of times with 4. And that's the other problem, is that you need to get your heads together to try to explain to shareholders, this looks worse than it is because you have 4 people doing the work of 7. So when you see Mary Millan and she's running around like a chicken without her head, don't be scared off from joining the board. Join the board, because more hands make less work. So there, we do need to sit down and talk about that every once in a while and figure out a way, kind of like a marketing strategy. I guess it would be an in-house marketing strategy where we can get these problems solved and take some of the burden off the board. The biggest issue for me in being a board member, the biggest challenge for me, and this is just me personally, is that I'm really pretty much a friendly person, and I've been there, at the co-op for 20 years or so. So I know a lot of people. I'm very friendly with a lot of people. It's very hard for me to separate Mary the friend from Mary the treasurer, or Mary the board member who knows about the garage spots and how come I can't get somebody out of their garage spot, and how come I can't fix the heat in their apartment. That's how it kind of evolves when you get too friendly. And I have a very good friend on the board who has told me from day one, zip it, just zip it. You don't have to solve everybody's problems. My biggest challenge is to be able to pass the problem on to where it belongs. if I could just get the words out, yes, just contact management, or yes, just write a note to the board, instead of thinking that when you stop me in the hall on my way to church, I have to resolve your leak in your bathroom right now. That's my biggest challenge. As far as the co-op market, the last couple of years have been pretty tough. I mean, everybody on a board will say, oh my God, the insurance just knocked the heck out of our budget. The taxes knocked the water bills, the price of a plumber, the union, increases. Everybody will tell you the same thing. And what can you do about that? I mean, you can't fight City Hall, right? There's certain things that you just cannot do anything about. And it's really hard to stay competitive. So how do you market yourself in a way that you stand out, that you can withstand all this pressure in the market and keep things affordable, keep your place safe, keep it clean? How do you do all that? And how do you get that message out to people? That's the thing, how do you get that message out to people? Because we want our apartments occupied as soon as possible, and of course we want to get the best price possible for those apartments. Everybody has the same problem. I mean, you have a building that has a lot of people who have lived there from day one. They haven't upgraded their apartments, so you end up, and they go to a nursing home or they pass away, God forbid, and their siblings or their beneficiaries live in another state. They just want to get rid of the apartment, so they sell it for cheap. So what happens to your comps? They go down. It's a struggle to try to get those prices back up so that you have a building that says we not only look good, but we sell well also. Now, people don't want to buy unless they know they can resell for a profit. So some of the things that I think are important are, first of all, to show the market, the buyers, that you have a plan. So we invested in an engineering company to give us a 10-year plan. With that 10-year plan, you can tell what you have to do in the future and what you have to do to get those things done in the future. How much do you have to have in capital reserves? If you don't have enough now, where are you going to get the money so in 5 years you can do that roof, or in 10 years you can replace that boiler? Where's that money going to come from? Have a plan. I think in this day and age, with things being so expensive, that people are going to be looking a lot closer about how co-ops handle their finances. They do not want to get into a place where a year down the line you're going to hit them with a big assessment because they did not plan the way they should have. So I think that's really critical. I mean, some of the things that stand out as far as our co-op is concerned, I think, is our electric is included in our maintenance. That's almost unheard of in our neighborhood. We're pet friendly, which can sometimes be good and bad, but that also is something that's not in every co-op in our area. We have had good reserves, partially because of certiaries and refinancing, things like that, but also because we intentionally budget certain amount to come out of maintenance every month to go into our reserves to replenish that. As things are spent, there's money that's replenished. I think that the idea of continuous replenishment is probably one of the most important things. When a buyer comes, the first thing they want to see is your financials. They want to see your audit report, your budget, whatever it is. And they're a lot more savvy now than I think it used to be. Certainly when I bought, only because I was in accounting that I looked at those things, but I think that the average person doesn't really look at those things. It's a nice building, it's affordable, and I'm in. But I think people are becoming a lot more savvy, they're becoming a lot more particular. So it's not just, it's a nice looking building anymore. It's, how does it look on the inside? How are the financials looking? And that's what's really important to them. A lot of young families come in with the intention they're going to raise a family for a year or two, and then they're going to go buy a house. Well, they can't do that unless they know that they have a sellable unit, something that they can, that they keep up with the market with. So that's a real challenge. But those are the things, and I am open to anybody that wants to sit and meet and give us more ideas, because these are things that I've learned from over the years I've been there, but there's so much more to learn. And I'd love to have a roundtable with other boards that maybe have found other ways, to get income, like that. But all in all, it's been a harrowing but a very rewarding experience, because I feel like if it's not for people who care, where would our co-op be? What would it look like if we just sat back and said, we're paying somebody to do it, and I'm sure they're doing a good job. I haven't checked, but I'm sure they're doing a good job. That doesn't work for me. It just doesn't work for me. But I think if you can establish a decent relationship with a management company and you can work together, it's not always easy, but if you can work together, I think we have a good shot of rising above all this craziness in the market and staying ahead of the game.